the Chase Thomas Podcast. For people who have nothing but time to kill.
To Ole Miss, there's a lot of premium outside playmaker skill position talent entering this conference going into next year, and some who've already been here and burst onto the scene. But I think two things can be true. I think you could still be excited and roll with Braylon Staley and Travis Smith and the guys who are coming in, Mike Matthews, obviously. But Dont'e Thornton, like we talked about, he's your best player, and Chris Brazzell has not shown you enough this year to be like, yeah, year two, he'll break out and he'll be our most consistent big play guy down the field. Like I think it's just a little bit different. I think you need to make a big time splash, I think, at wide receiver. I think you do need to, it doesn't necessarily have to be Micah Hudson, but he's the one who I have circled the most of, like, I think it makes the most sense. Tennessee makes a lot of sense to me for Micah Hudson, and they've had success going after Texas guys before, like at Texas Home State. Like, obviously Jermon McCoy is a Texas guy. They get him from Texas A&M. Chris Brazzell's a Texas guy. Tennessee's, I mean, I think Max Anderson, Texas guy. Bennett Warren, Texas guy. Like, there's a lot of Texas guys in this roster, so it wouldn't be crazy to see if they were able to jump in there. But to me, Ryan Schumpert, that's the one, if I'm thinking offensively, where Tennessee needs to go with the portal opening up here. It's going after a blue chip wide receiver and not one of those kind of question marks like G5 to P5 upside like a Chris Brazzell or a Dont'e Thornton who came in from Oregon without a lot of production, but still not the same pedigree as like a Micah Hudson. I think they need to take a big swing on somebody like that because of what they're losing.
Yeah, I mean, you said it a couple minutes ago that you got to feel really good about Nico going into year two, and like, let's not sugarcoat it here. If you're going to feel great about Nico going into year two and Tennessee's offense and the pass game getting back on track, the receivers got to get a whole lot better than they were this year, in my opinion. And I completely agree. There's other positions in the portal you're going to go after. The one you got to spend big on, to me, is at receiver, and no more, kind of pussyfooting it of, I don't know if let's go, we need a body, but let's not spend a ton on a stud. I think this is the time you kind of go all in on a stud and go all in on a sure thing. To me, Micah Hudson's not that. Maybe they evaluate it and see it that way. Look, I certainly have not grinded the tape. I saw 45 minutes ago that we were talking about Micah Hudson on this podcast. So I'm not grinding the tape. I thought you were going to say I saw 45 minutes of Micah Hudson tape, and I was like, I love that. That's what makes Ryan Schumpert different. He put in an hour nearly of Micah Hudson tape. I'll tell you exactly, for the people watching the podcast, here's how much time I spent watching the Micah Hudson tape. So look, maybe there is a lot there that I don't know. I'm strictly stat watching right now, and his stats are like 8 catches for 120 yards this season. So I would want to go after, you said it, go after a more known commodity. That's what I would think. I don't know who else is going to end up being out there in the portal. Obviously, he's a really talented guy. The upside of him being at Tennessee for multiple years, in a system where it feels like it takes a year or two for receivers to kind of get their feet wet, I would get all that. I would get why that would be someone you'd go after. But again, for thinking Tennessee needs an instant impact guy for next year, I don't really think Micah Hudson's the best way to go.
I don't know, man. He was the number 5 wide receiver prospect, 25 nationally on 247. Who he was reminded of from Gabe Brooks in January 2024. First round projection, Garrett Wilson. Dynamic, high volume playmaker who can play outside or in the slot. Lean, athletic build with sneaky strength. Highly productive high school receiver. Big play punch at running back. Oh, he plays some running back. But this is the best part. Vertical field stretcher with very good initial burst that also aids in the run after catch threat. That right there. That sentence is what Tennessee needs. Like, that is all Tennessee really needs out wide. Like, the other stuff is fine, the screen stuff, the blocking stuff, like, that is it. Like, we've seen it. Like, that is the thing. That is the one skill set. If you want to push this Tennessee offense over the top, what they described out of high school for Micah Hudson is exactly what Tennessee needs to thrive. Vertical field stretcher with very good initial burst that also aids in the run after catch. Like, that's what they have to have. Like, that's what they haven't had all year outside of Dont'e Thornton. Like, that is the difference with breaking through and having guys like Ryan Williams and Cam Coleman and Caleb Cunningham coming in here. Like, you just need one of those guys. And I understand you're worried about the production at Texas Tech, but
Ryan Williams says 800 yards this season as a true freshman. This dude doesn't have 18.
It's fine.
Like, he doesn't have 1,800 or he doesn't have 180.
I'm willing to give him a mulligan this year, Ryan Schumpert at Texas Tech. He is a big, I just don't think you're going to see as many just like guys who have been extremely productive in the Power 2 that are going, like the Concepcion, the slot guy from NC State. Like, that's fine, but he still doesn't really move the needle. And again, not really what Tennessee does offensively. It just doesn't seem like a natural fit. I want someone on the outside who is fast after the catch and just excels vertically. Like, that is what Tennessee needs more than anything to replace Dont'e Thornton, because that should be priority one this offseason, is making sure you have a Dont'e Thornton replacement ready to go. Not a question mark there. You need to be certain who is going to be our yak guy.
He would be a question mark. That's where your two things are not, they're not compatible. Like, you can 100% sell me on Hudson. 100%. You can sell me on him. Good player, going to be a good player at Tennessee. You cannot tell me priority one is for this not to be a question mark in the offseason, to know you have a guy that can do what Dont'e Thornton did and hopefully do it on a lot more snaps. You can't say that's priority one and then tell me this guy's the answer, because it's not going to answer the question. It's not a for sure thing. Look, you can sell me on him being a really good player at Tennessee. I'm just saying, if Micah Hudson's the answer and he's the guy that's going to start opposite of Mike Matthews or Chris Brazell or whoever next year, I'm going to go into the season with production at wide receiver as a question mark. And maybe what I'm asking is unrealistic. Maybe it is. I mean, you hit on it a second ago. Maybe I'm being unrealistic and thinking what Tennessee can get there. But to me, that will be a question mark if that's the answer. Not that he can't work out, but a question. Not a weakness, but a question.
But I think, to put a bow on it, we both agree. You cannot do the Brazel thing, the Thornton thing. You can't do a half measure here. Like, this offseason has to be a big investment in a ready-to-play. Like, no question, this guy is going to be a big playmaker option for Nico. Like, yep. It's going to be great if Mike also hits and Braylon Staley hits in the slot, or some of these other guys break out. Like, that's a plus. But you need a guaranteed thing, like in year 2 with Nico. Like, you just can't go into next year and have 3 straight years of just suboptimal wide receiver play. You just can't.
I agree. I mean, you look at Tennessee's schedule next year, that, we'll see what it looks like closer to, but
I mean, you're going to Gainesville and Tuscaloosa. You haven't won there yet.
Yep, and you got Georgia at home, who you haven't beaten, period.
Yep.
And, look, I think Tennessee will beat Oklahoma at home, but Oklahoma hired what seems to be a good offense coordinator today. I think that game Oklahoma looks a whole lot different, could potentially look a whole lot different than they did last year. Not that I think Tennessee's going to lose to Syracuse, but that maybe doesn't look like quite the buy that we thought it might be in the past. So Tennessee needs to be better offensively. I think it's I don't know if unrealistic is the right word. I don't think you can bank on Tennessee's defense being as good again next year. I think it will be good. I don't think there's going to be a massive drop-off. But to win some of those big-time games, the offense has to be better. And for the offense to be better, as we've been talking about, for the keys for Tennessee to have success in the playoffs, is to get the pass game back to what it was in 22 and 21 and being able to create a lot of chunk plays down the field.
Absolutely. CFP predictions, though. So where do you think now, call your shot right now, Ryan Schumpert, what do you think the committee does with Tennessee tomorrow and where Tennessee ultimately ends up?
Yeah, look, it's hard to predict what the committee is going to do because there's no rhyme or reason or logic. So I don't know what they will do. What I think should be the case, as much as people don't want to hear it, I think Tennessee should end up being the 9 seed and playing at Ohio State, or at least going on the road. I think Ohio
That's a doomsday scenario. Ohio State. I don't know how many times Ohio State's lost back-to-back home games, but I'm going to just go ahead and say.
Nicely done, nephew. The Chase Thomas Podcast. Hell yeah.